Okay, so let us begin. It is Monday, the 29th of November. This is the second of our 4 classes on fundamentals. And we'll start with a salute. And as we talked about last week, it's the right fist. You bring your left palm onto the right fist. So the warrior and the scholar meet together. They go into battle together, united as one. And when you bring your hands down, actually what the poem says is, we dispel all evil. So, hello everybody, great to see you. Okay, so for warm-ups, we will do just like we did last week, Master Youngjin's wellness exercises. And I will be mirroring you. So this is what this red band, when I remember, means. So if you lift your left hand and you're looking at the screen, you should more or less see me as if you're in a mirror. And so let us begin, feet together, standing nice up straight, hands by the side of your thighs, touching the middle of your thighs. And we're going to step out, shoulder width apart, lift up the heel, ball, toe, put down, toe, ball, heel. Moving like waves. So lift up as you breathe in, breathe out, bend your knees as you come down. Stop at the bottom, breathe in, straighten the legs, arms up, breathe out, arms down, bend the knees. Stop with your palms parallel. Breathe in and up, breathe out and down. Breathe in and up, breathe out and down, and one more. Breathe in and up, breathe out and down. Straighten your legs, palms on your thighs, fingertips down the seam of your pants, and close your left leg in, pick up the heel, ball, toe, put down, toe, ball, heel. Next, we'll do the second exercise, and that's the one I'll say a little bit about today, which is rock opens its wings. So step open, lift heel, ball, toe, then toe, ball, heel, putting it down. So bring the arms up and open, not too far. Bend the knees, hug a tree as you breathe out. Breathe in and open. Breathe out and down. Breathe in and open. Breathe out, down, bend the knees. In and open. Down and close, breathe out. One more. Open. Close and stop here. Pause for a moment. Drop your arms. As you breathe in, arms come up. And then press down with your legs straight. Put your palms by the sides of your legs. Step close, lift up, heel, ball, toe. Put down, toe, ball, heel. And then we'll do the third one, which is gazing at the moon. Step open to the left. Heel, ball, toe, toe, ball, heel. Breathing in, arms up. Look up. Press down with the palms as you breathe out and bend the legs. And finish with your palms facing down in front of your hips. Rotate your arms so the palms are now facing to the front. Up. Look up. Breathe in. Press down. Bend knees. Breathe out. Breathe in and up. Breathe out and down. Breathe in and up. Breathe out and down. One more. Breathe in and up. Breathe out and down. And so we'll stop here, pause for a moment, straighten your legs, put your hands by the sides of your thighs, and then step close, lift heel, ball, toe, touch, toe, ball, heel. And there we are. So let me just say a few words about the second exercise. We talked about the first exercise a little bit last week. Next week, I'll do the third one. So the second exercise, we're opening and closing our arms. And what I want to focus on is the shape of the arms. So last week, we started standing practice, right? So we were standing like this with our arms in a circle, fist width between our fingertips, and our palms about chest height, elbows down, shoulders down, head up. Then we're going to open our arms. Now I want you to be careful that you don't open your arms too much. Because you remember one of the things we talked about is you want to absorb your chest and round your back. So let's just explore that. So start with this posture. Remember, you want to pull your elbows out to make your back rounded. Now just open at the elbows and open a little bit more, but just so much that you can still feel pulling across your back. As soon as you open too far and your back goes hollow at the back, that's too much. You don't want to go further than this. So close, leg bend, open, close, and open, close, and open. And so let me just do that so you can see that from the side. Much harder on Zoom to do 3 dimensions. I don't open much more than here and then close. Open and close. Okay, so that'll have to suffice for our warm-ups. If you are able to do your own warm-ups before class, that's even better. I see a few more people have joined. Hey, Terry. Hey, Lorraine, good to see you. Lydia is with us and Marion as well. Lovely to see all of you. Another nice way to warm up, if you don't have time or mind space to do anything, just march in place. And that will warm most things up. If you just do this for a minute or so, that's a nice way of warming up. Okay, so we'll do that for our warm-ups. Next, I'll talk a little bit about this other movement. So to review, what we are studying in these 4 classes is the fundamentals. And so in the context of how our teacher, Master Young-Jun, thinks about the progression of learning, there are 3 stages. He talks about, first, understand the reason why you're doing something. Second, sort of know your body. And the third is understand how to apply the techniques in a martial art context. So I will be talking a little bit about the reasons for everything as we go along. And if you have questions about what the reasons are, please ask. But our focus is going to be on know your body. We're obviously not able to do the third stage, which is applying the technique, because for that, you need somebody else. When we do understand your body, we can do that in 2 ways, and we'll be practicing both those ways in these classes. One is still practice. You're just standing there. The other one is moving. We'll start doing moving practice. When you actually practice the form, the sequence, that's also moving practice. When we think about understanding our body, the 5 elements are footwork, how your body is shaped and set, how you practice. One of the things we'll talk about is how you move your body. What your hand movements are is number 4, and your gaze. In these few classes, we're just going to focus on footwork, the body, and a little bit about practice method. So we'll start with still practice. We started with this last week. So join me, please. Stand with your feet shoulder width apart. So we're going to do this parallel stance. And actually, I'll talk a little bit about some of those 5 things, right? So our footwork. As I said last week, our feet are, with 1 or 2 exceptions, either pointing to the corner or pointing straight. And so here both feet are pointing straight. When we're in the stance, we want to have our crotch rounded so that our weight is even on the inside and the outside of our feet. We don't want to be knock-kneed. We don't want to be bow-legged. So that's crotch rounded. We also want to have our weight on the bubbling well, and this is a question that Rima asked last week. And so to do that, what I invite you to do is, so you're standing there, tilt forward at your hip crease until you start feeling yourself falling forwards. So all your weight comes off your heels, and your weight is all on the balls of your feet. That's too far forward. Tilt up. If you go back, you'll start feeling your weight on your heels, and your toes will come up. You want to adjust this angle so that the weight is over the bubbling well. And as we said, the bubbling well is an acupuncture point just behind the ball of the foot. So you want the weight evenly distributed between the heels and the balls, actually a little bit more towards the balls. Both legs are bent, and the weight distribution is 50-50. Remember, I said there's also body, so that's footwork. What's body? First one is we want to center our hips between our feet. So that's hard not to do here. If you have an injury or something, it might sometimes tilt you to the one side or the other. And we want to make sure that our torso angle is correct. So what I was just saying about tilting your torso forward slightly so that you get the weight over the bubbling well, that's the torso setting we want. Now, that's body setting, body shape. So bring your arms up. We use 4 things in this checklist to make sure that our body shape is correct. So we'll stand here for about 30 seconds. Make sure that your head is up. Feel your top of your head pointing straight up. Push up the crown of your head. Drop your shoulder blades down. Feel there's weight on your elbows pulling down. And now pull your elbows horizontally out so that you feel the tension across the small of your back. That will sink your chest and round your back. And the 4th one, you want to, what we say, relax the waist. In other words, drop your tailbone straight down. If you want, maintain this posture. If you want to rest, and if you want to rest at any time, take a break. But this can get quite tiring, so take a break at any time. So let's do that for another stint. So let's do those checks again. We're starting with our weight over the bubbling well, crotch rounded. So the weight is evenly on our feet, front to back, side to side. Make sure that your waist, in other words, your lower back is relaxed. So you don't want to be tilted out like this, and you don't want to be rounded in like this. You want your hips centered, tailbone pointing down. With that in place, stretch your back horizontally by pulling out at the elbows and feeling your arms like the outside of a balloon being pressed open. Make sure that that didn't make your shoulders go up. So drop your shoulder blades down, feel your elbows being pulled down like there are weights hanging from your elbows. And now push your head up. And if you need to relax, take the pressure off your shoulders, do that. When you're ready, come back into the posture. We want to find the golden balance. So when we say pull our arms open, we don't want to be limp, but we don't want to be too stiff either. And the way we do that is see if you can breathe easily. So forget about everything else. Just see if you can stand there for another 20 seconds and just breathe easily. Breathe into your abdomen. So as you breathe in, your belly drops. And as you breathe out, your belly comes up. And stop. And relax. So that is our standing practice. I encourage everyone to do a little bit of that whenever you do your practice. If you can do 30 seconds, a minute, what you'll find, if what you find is what I found, is that it helps show you how you should arrange your body. It teaches you about your body, and gradually it'll also teach you how to breathe. So when we talked about this, remember we started with the feet. We talked about the body setting, and we talked about the body posture. Remember the 5 things: footwork, body, practice methods, hands, and gaze. So let's talk a bit about practice method. The one I want to talk about is flexibility in the waist. When we use the waist as a word, Chinese translation from the word yao, it doesn't refer to your belt. It actually refers to, if I understand it correctly, the lower back on the back side. In other words, the lumbar spine. And what we're going to practice is flexibility of your lumbar spine. If you haven't done this before, if you have a chair nearby, a nice hard chair, go and grab it. It will become clear in a moment why that's a good thing to do. What we are going to practice is being able to move our chest independently of our hips. So by analogy, I can keep my chest in the same place and move my head, right? And so what's happening is my neck is turning. My chest isn't moving, but my head is moving. What we're going to do now is we're going to move our chest and not move our hips. So we're going to practice being able to move our chest, but not our hips. That's quite hard to do if you've never done it before. And if you, what one tends to do is you tend to turn your hips. And if you don't do it right, you torque your knees. So that's bad for the knees. So sit in a chair. Sit on the front of the chair and feel both your tailbones pressing down into the chair. That will actually immobilize your hips. Your hips are not going to go anywhere now. Arms in front. So the first one we're going to do is we're going to turn to left and right. And you can do this standing, and I see some of you are doing it standing, which is great. So we're going to go to the left. Just turn your chest. Keep your hands stationary in front of your chest. Turn to the right. To the left. To the right. To the left. To the right. At first, just keep doing it or stop if you get tired. Our range of motion is quite limited. So work within the constraints of your body, but gradually push the envelope. So what we get by sitting in the chair is that we're not moving our hips around. The other thing I want to make sure that I'm clear about is when I go side to side, I'm not just moving my arms and not moving my chest. The arms are just showing you where my chest is going. So to make sure we're not cheating, cross your arms and turn to the left, to the right, to the left, to the right, to the left, to the right. One more, to the left, to the right. The reason why we practice with our hands out like this is it's a way for us to, at the same time, train our body shape, the things we were doing in standing practice. So this is moving in this horizontal plane. We can also move the spine in other directions. So today, we're going to talk about side to side and forward back. So to do side to side, put your arms out to the side. And even though our lower spine is going to move our chest, which is going to move our fingers, you might want to start thinking about your fingers are pulling your chest to the left. And then your fingers pull your chest to the right. Pull your chest to the left, to the right. As you do this, make sure that your tailbones are both still glued to the seat of your chair so that your hip is not going anywhere. Okay, and then as you progress, you can do it with your arms in front as well. What I will say is when you're doing this, if you're starting this for the first time, don't do too many of them to begin with, because our backs aren't used to this. So do a little bit and gradually increase it. So now we've gone round in a circle. We've gone side to side. Now we're going to go forward back. And so imagine now your fingertips are on, let's say, a counter on either side. You're not going to move your hands. You're going to bring your chest forward and then back. I'll go this way, forward, back, forward, back, forward, back, forward, back. One more. Forward, back, and relax. Okay. There are many ways in which we will, well, there are some ways in which we're going to enrich this practice next week and the week after that. And let me just summarize for you what we did today. So if you imagine this is my chest. Here are my shoulders, and this is the line from the front to the back of my chest. First, we went around in a circle like this, like side to side. This was going side to side, right? Then, sorry, to the right and to the left in a circle. Then, this thing's going to fall off. We went to one side, to the other side, to this side, to that side. And then, thirdly, we went forward and back, forward and back. So you can see that those are three directions that will begin to loosen our waist, in other words, our lower back. Okay. What I'm hoping that you will be left with at the end of these 4 classes is some exercises that you can work into your daily practice, because obviously we don't have time to practice them as much as I would like. The other thing is I don't know where everybody is in terms of, you know, how your body is doing and where you get tired. So you know better than I do when you're getting tired. And if I ask you to do something and your body doesn't want to do it, don't listen to me, listen to your body. Okay. So that's going to be our waist practice. Next week we'll learn some new waist practice. Let's go to the footwork that we did last week. So last week we did bow stance, and this week we're going to learn another one called the empty stance. So first, let us just review bow stance. So let's do this together. So if you're still mirroring me, sink down with your left foot pointed at the corner. Perform a bow stance and go forward. And so I will just review with you briefly what the various elements are of the bow stance. You'll gradually get to sort of hear, you're going to hear the same things over and over again that hopefully will make it easy for you to check. So one foot to the corner, one foot to straight. Remember when we parallel stance, so we're both to the straight. Now we've got one to the corner, one to the straight. You want to have your crotch rounded. So what that means is you want to have your back knee, your left knee, in line with your left toe. I'm going to move my weight forward because I don't want to hurt my knee. You don't want your knee tilted in like this. You want your knee open. The front leg is much easier. The front leg should be okay. And then the last one is you want to have your weight over the bubbling well. And so that means that you want both feet flat on the ground, the weight equally distributed between the heel and the ball on the front foot and the back foot. Rima had a question about that last week, and I'll address that in a few minutes when I've gone through the rest of the review. Okay, so we've done that. So let's just talk about the length of this stance. So, or the shape way I put my feet. The width is shoulder width. So these blue lines is my shoulder width. And as I said last week, shoulder width is if you take the outside of your feet and line them up with the outside of your shoulders, that's your shoulder width. So for me, if I put my feet on the center of the blue line, that's my shoulder width. So that is the width of your bow stance. The length of your bow stance depends on how much your back leg sinks. So if your back leg doesn't sink very much, it'll be short, which is fine. If your back leg can sink more, it will be further forward. Last thing we're going to talk about is the shapes and the weights. So the back leg is straight but not locked. The front leg is bent. The front leg, you want your shin slightly tilted forward, but not very much. So your knee should not be very far forward. When you look down, you should be able to see all your toes. That will mean that you have 60% of your weight on the front leg and 40% on the back leg. So let's change to the other side. So if you're mirroring, stand on your right leg, pointing to the corner, step out, shoulder width, heel, ball, toe. Okay. Next thing I want to talk about is body setting. So the first is you want to centralize your hips. What that means is that your tailbone is going to be centered between your heels. And there you should be able to see this light line here between the two blue lines. You want your tailbone over that white line. So what that means is you don't want your left leg, if you're mirroring me, you don't want your left leg to be vertical up and down. You want your hips to be such that this leg is tilted in slightly and the other one is also tilted in slightly. And then the last thing is your torso angle. So we've centered our hip between the heels, and we're going to tilt forward at the hip crease so that our torso is in line with the back leg. If you don't have a helper or you don't have a mirror, one way you can do that is look down your side, so that just see if it makes sense that your shoulder, the tip of your hip, your knees and your ankle are more or less in a straight line. You don't want to be like this, and you don't want to be like this either. So to this question about bubbling well, one of the things I said is you want to make sure that you can't lift your toes or your heels. And Remo was saying, you know what, I can actually lift my heels. There are various things that one can do to check that. We mentioned some of them, and I spoke to some of my teaching colleagues over the last week. One of them is to make sure that you're pushing back with your front leg and pushing forward with your back leg. We call this push and support. We talked about it last week. And so let's make sure we can practice that. So perform a bow stance, and you're leaning forward. Now, straighten your front leg and bend your back leg. So now 60% of your weight is in the back. Now, straighten the back leg, bend the front leg. So what you're doing is it's like a heavy ball that you're throwing from one side to the other. And the relationship between your legs, when I'm going forward, my front foot is supporting the back foot pushing forward. So when you are in the stance and you're not moving, try and make sure that you're pushing back with the front leg and forward with the back leg, particularly pushing that back heel down. Let's change stance, try the other side, and let's try this push and support as well. So push back, push forward, push back, forward, back, forward. And as you do this more and more, you should be able to find that it almost becomes like springiness. When I push forward and stop myself, that stopping will push my front foot even further into the ground. When I push my back leg, straighten my back leg and push into the front and stop with the front, I feel my back leg pushing down. So this is push and support. That may also help increase that sense of weight over the bubbling well. The other thing that will help is just time. It takes time for us to learn what our bodies are doing. At least it does for me. I'm still never 100% sure which direction my feet are pointing in. So I often look down. It's like, what are my feet doing right now? So when you're practicing this, particularly if you're doing standing practice, just try and feel the weight on the soles of your feet. Where is the weight? Which one is heavy? Which one am I feeling more pressure, the balls or the heels? Okay. So that is the footwork and the body setting. What we're going to do next is review what we did last week in terms of moving with bow stance. So as review, which way are we going to go? We'll go this way. Okay, so perform a bow stance, and I don't, this may not work for your space. You're just going to have to adjust. Perform a bow stance. And in fact, I am going to start practicing with my arms out in front like this. You're free to do that too. This is a way for us to really understand where our chest is relative to our hips. In other words, what our waist is doing, and also to practice our body shape. So I'm pointed in this direction. I want to point my body in 90-degree different direction. How do I do that change? I shift my weight back so that it's now 50-50. I turn my left toe to the corner. Actually, this would be your right toe if you're mirroring me. Shift the weight over, bring the foot in, step out, shoulder width, heel ball toe, bend knee. Let's go back the other way. Shift back 50-50, so shift back slightly. Turn the left toe in, so that both toes are now pointing to the corner. Shift your weight over to the left. Bring the right foot in. Step out, shoulder width, heel touch, heel ball toe, bend knee, and you're there. One more. Shift back, turn 45 degrees, bring in, and as we step, heel first, then ball, then toe. And one more turn to the right, shift back, lift up the ball of the foot, pivot on the heel, put it down, bring in the legs, step out, shoulder width, heel, ball, toe, bend knee. Okay, so that's moving through a 90-degree angle. We can also move in a straight line. With this class, we're just going to talk about moving in a straight line going forward. We can also go backwards, but that's further on. We don't have time to talk about going backwards. So perform a bow stance, and we're going to go in a straight line. Normally, what we've just done is we've shifted our weight back slightly, so it's about 50-50, and turned our front toe in. Now we're going to turn the front toe out. And as I turn my front toe out, make sure that you keep your crotch rounded. In other words, that your toes and your knees stay pointing in the same direction. Don't be knock-kneed when you do this. That's long-term bad news. So I've opened my front foot, shift my weight onto the bubbling well, which is going in that direction. Bring the foot through, heel ball toe, and step. Shift slightly, open the toe to the corner, keep the crotch rounded, step through, heel ball toe, bend knee. Shift weight back, open the toe, shift weight in the direction of the bubbling well, heel ball toe, bend knee. So the checklist when we're doing this walking is, one of the things to bear in mind is the sequence in which our feet touches. So I've been doing this a lot. Heel ball toe, toe ball heel ball toe ball heel. So that's what we do when we're moving forward. The next thing, when we are moving in young style, we move smoothly and evenly. So the way they talk about this in Yang style is we're moving like a cat or like walking on thin ice. So there are no sudden movements. There are some styles, Cheng style is famous for that, I think. They actually slow down and speed up. They also have stomping movements. We don't have stomping movements in Yang style. And then the last one to bear in mind when you're moving is you are picking your feet up just slightly and putting them down again. It's like moving your feet through mud. You're not picking up very high and putting down again, nor are you not picking your foot up at all and just dragging it on the ground. So you pick it up slightly and then put it down again. All right, so that's where we are with what we did last time. So before I introduce the new step, which is the empty stance, first, hello to people who joined since I last looked carefully at the screen. Hi, Sam. Hey, Didi. Great to see your names. Does anybody have any questions so far today? And by the way, I will be staying after class. Actually, somebody had a question from last week that I don't have time to deal with in class, that I'll talk about after class. And if you have any questions, you can stay after class. If you'd rather not ask them in class, we can talk about it then. Any questions? Okay, so last week we did bow stance. This week we're going to do empty stance. And empty stance is not entirely empty, but it's empty compared to bow stance. And so let me mirror you again. And this time I'm going to line myself up, and I think you can see that line. Hopefully you can see this white. There's a line between the two blue lines. And I'm going to have my feet on either side of this line. What Master Youngjin describes as a center line, two sides. So right foot points at the corner. Sink your weight onto the right foot. Bring your left leg forward. Your leg is more or less straight, and touch the ball of your left foot. Just the ball, but the whole of the ball of your foot. Tilt your torso at the hip crease slightly so that you get some weight on that foot. Let's just do the other side. So pick up the right foot, put it down next to the left foot. Now the right foot's pointing to the corner. Pick up the left foot, put it in front of you, and touch. So what we're doing, again, you can see we've got one foot to the corner and one foot to straight. We're going to perform this empty stance ball touch. So sink, if you're mirroring me, your left foot, straighten your leg. Actually, you can see it from the side. So all my weight is now on my left leg. I put down, my right leg is more or less straight, touch with the ball. And you can see that I've got bubbling well. I want weight on the bubbling well on this foot, on this left leg. Tilt at your torso slightly and press down the ball of the other foot. Check that you have your crotch rounded. It's very easy, and I'm going to stand up and not actually demonstrate this for real. When you're in this stance, to have your knee tilted in. You want to have your crotch rounded so that your back knee is pointed in the same direction as the back foot. The length of this stance is as long as it takes to put your front ball down with this leg straight. We'd want the leg more or less straight. It's not like this. It's more or less, it's not locked either. It's not really extended, but you're touching with the ball. The weight distribution, we say 70% on the back, 30% on the front. Shake it out if you have been doing this along with me. Let's think a little bit about body. So our body setting. Perform bow stance. Left leg at the back, arms out. You want to have your hip centered between your heels. That's easy here. It's really hard if your feet are in the right position not to do that. In order to get that 30% on the front foot, the way you do that is not by moving your hips forward, because you want to keep your back hip over the back foot so you get bubbling well on the back foot. You shift your center of gravity forward by tilting at the hip crease. So this is how you put weight on the front foot. Let's try it on the other side. So change feet. So now I've got 100% on the back foot, leg out, bend at the hip crease until I've got 30% on the front. And remember what I was saying about push and support. So try and feel that. You're pushing back with the front foot and pushing forward with the back foot. The feeling that I'd like you to have with your ball, and the same will be true when we in a minute do with the heel, is you're pushing vertically down. Our teacher Nancy Lauscher actually has this wonderful image of when you're planting and you've put a seed in and you want to really make sure that it's in the seed. You tamp it down with your foot. You're pressing straight down. Another image, and I'm not a golfer, but I've watched people playing golf. If you do a swing and you take this great big divot of grass out and you put the divot back and you want to press that divot down, it's the same thing. Press vertically down. Okay, so now let us do the other empty stance. So we've done ball, so now we'll do the other one, which is heel. So if you're mirroring me, left leg to the corner, straighten the leg. Now I want you to put your heel down and bend at the front so that you can get 30% on that front foot. From the side, it looks like this. So 100% on the back, straight leg, that'll give me length. Tilt here. And actually, if you put your arms out, you'll get a little bit more center of gravity going forward, and feel that you've got weight on the front foot. Push and support, push back, push forward between the two to see if you've got push and support. So let's change sides so that we equalize. So right toe to the corner, 100% on the right. The left heel on the other side of the center line. Tilt at the hip crease and feel push and support. And relax. So the requirement in terms of the foot location is center line, two sides. So this is not an empty stance, because you can see there's space between my feet. This is not an empty stance either, because you can see my feet are crossed. And the reason why we want to have one line, two side is that when we are in this sort of more closed position, that gives us the maximum balance, the best trade-off between balance and agility. So centering, stability, and being able to move. Okay, are there any questions about that? Yes, Marion.
In the empty stance, I don't really feel that it's possible to round my crotch. I can concentrate on keeping my one hip open so that the knee is going in the right direction, but not really anything with the front leg. Is that correct?
I find, and this may be in my mind, is that actually I do feel opening slightly. My knee, you probably can't see my knee, my front knee move, but there is the opening across my groin, both sides. I think most of the action and most of the thing you need to be worried about is the back leg so that you're not torquing your knee. But for me, there is a little bit of opening on both sides. It may just be my imagination. Okay? Okay. All right. So we've talked about the stance. We've talked about the footwork. We've talked about the body setting. Let's just talk about the body shape. which is the rigmarole that you already know. So I will do it from the side. So perform an empty stance. Let's just do it with ball touch. So back leg to the corner, 70% weight, 30% on the front. Now, put your arms in the circle, hug the tree, and let's do the checks that you know from standing practice. And in fact, what I am doing now is a perfectly good standing practice. So my head is up. I'm pushing the top of my head up. At the same time, I'm dropping my shoulders and feeling my elbows being weighted down. I'm pulling open my back by pulling my elbows out horizontally. And I'm trying to relax my waist. In other words, I'm dropping my hips down vertically. Another way to think about this is shorthand. You may, so I was saying, push the head up. Feel your head is attached to something, is hanging, is attached to the ceiling. Feel everything else dropping down. Okay, so now let's change to the other side. So release the weight from the front foot, bring it back, put it down 45 degrees, shift your weight over. By the way, that left-right movement that we were practicing in waist practice earlier, this is where you would use it. Because to move my weight from left to right, I'm moving my chest from side to side. Then bring your other leg out, ball touch, 30%. Now let's do the stance. We'll start from the bottom this time. So feel your hip dropping down, feel your tailbone going down. Feel as you pull open the upper back, left, right, by pulling at your elbows, that's actually going to help your waist to relax. Drop your elbows, sink your shoulders, and head up. And release. So you hear me use this word relax a lot. And it's actually a technical term in Tai Chi Chuan because it's the word, I think the Chinese word is sung, that's translated as relax, is not the way that most of us think of relax. It is actually relax in the sense of open. It's not relaxed in the sense of sitting on the sofa with a remote control, watching TV. And so when we say relax the waist, what we mean is actually to feel as if your tailbone is dropping down and your spine is lengthening, and we're opening up the gaps between all the joints. So you want your joints open, you want your tendons to be open. And so when we have our arms out in front of us, actually we're relaxing our arms. This shape is a relaxed shape. You want to open your spine, open your shoulders, open your elbows, open your wrists, open your finger joints. And this openness is a balance between not being limp and not being rigid. It's just in between. The image that I like is, I don't know what one calls these things. The Jiffy Lube just near where I live they have a big red tube with a Jiffy Lube logo on it, and it blows air up the bottom, and the air comes out the top, and this thing sort of swings from side to side because the air is pushing up through it. If you tied a great big knot in the top, it would be completely rigid and it would probably explode after a while. And if you didn't blow any air through it, it would just be completely limp. So relax is that middle point where there is, if you want energy, yes, there you go, Marion. And this is sort of, I'm sure that Didi has an exercise like this. Maybe we should invent one if she doesn't. So that's what relax means. Okay. Not hearing any questions or any more questions. Let's talk about moving. Marion.
Okay, so, and I think I know the answer to this, but when I go into the empty stance, I notice that there's a difference in almost the tilt of my hips. And I know part of it's because I'm getting ready to tilt forward from my hips. But I also feel that it's harder for me to keep my tailbone down. And I think that I'm arching it already because I'm in such a short stance. And I'm wondering if you just need to concentrate on keeping your tailbone set all the way in the same way as you move through any of these positions. The same direction, I guess I should say.
I'm afraid my answer is going to be a little bit inscrutable, which is you have to find it in your own body. And the way to find it in your own body is to do standing practice, and to, in your standing practice, go too far the wrong way, see what your breathing does. Go too far the other way, your breathing will tighten up again. Relax and try and find the middle point where your breathing is most relaxed. Stay there. And then gradually your body will learn to recognize that, and then it will use it when you're doing moving practice. Okay, good. So now let's do some moving practice. All right. So we're going to start in our empty stance. And we're going to do empty stance bow touch. So we've got one line, back foot to the corner, front foot on the other side of the line, ball touch. So I'm going to go from this direction to that direction. I'm going to turn through 90 degrees. I'm going to pick up my foot, put down my heel. So I'm going to pick up the ball, put down the heel, shift my weight over, bring the back foot in, and then put it down again, center line two sides. So now I've turned through 90 degrees. I'm going to turn through 90 degrees now to the other side. So shift my weight back slightly so that I'm releasing my front foot, pick it up, put down the heel. Now the foot's pointing to the corner. Shift my weight over onto it, 100%. Pick up the released foot, put it down, center line two sides, bend slightly your torso so you've got 30%. Do two more. Pick up, turn, shift your weight, center line two sides, put down the foot, and make sure your torso is tilted in a way that you've got push and support. One more. Turn through 45 degrees, shift, and step. Okay. So that's ball touch. As you know, there are two empty stances, ball touch and heel touch. So now let's do this 90-degree turn with the heel touch. So perform an empty stance, heel touch. By the way, something that was I didn't say explicitly, maybe I should have done. You know, when you think about your foot location in these two stances, you'll find that the ball touch is a little bit longer than the heel touch, just because your heel, if you keep your leg at the same sort of straight but not locked position, the heel will touch before the ball touches. So your empty stance with the heel is a little bit shorter. Okay, empty stance with the heel. We're going to turn in this direction. Because I'm already on my heel, I'm not going to pick it up. I'm just going to rotate my foot through 45 degrees so that this foot is now to the corner. Shift my weight over. Bring the other one in. Center line two sides, heel touch. Shift my weight back slightly. Rotate the heel so the foot goes from the straight to the corner. Shift the weight over. Center line two sides, heel touch. I'm going to reset. Heel touch, empty stance. Rotate the heel to 45 degrees. Shift the weight over. Bring the foot in, step out. Center line two sides, heel touch. Release back slightly. Turn on the heel. Shift the weight. Bring the leg in. Step out. Heel touch. Now, you can, of course, alternate. There are probably, there's an indefinite number of permutations, right? And I'll leave that as an exercise to the player. But so, for example, I can start with a ball touch. I can change to a heel touch. I can go to a heel touch. I can rotate on the heel. I can go to the heel. I can rotate on the heel, then into a ball, then ball to heel, ball to ball, and so on. So these are all possibilities that you can play with. Yes, Rima.
There's something you said that confused me.
Oh dear.
Well, I probably just didn't misunderstood, but when you were talking about the empty stance, you said that the way to get 30% on the front foot is to lean forward slightly from the waist.
Yes.
And then when you actually did it, you talked about getting up straight and feeling like you were suspended from your head, which would seem contradictory. Like if that would seem straight up. And as I watched you, it looked like a lot of the time you were straight up and down and not bent forward. So
Okay.
did I
That's
just confuse you?
no. Maybe I confused you. Maybe I confused myself. You know, it's like it's one of the things about teaching: do as I say, don't do as I do. But so I think that you had two questions there. One is when I say pull up with the head, isn't that a contradiction with being bent here?
Yes.
And then the other one is when I was moving, I wasn't always fully down. Okay, so I will address both of those, and then we may not get to straight line walking. We'll do that next week. So the first thing is actually the easiest, we'll just do it in the bow stance. So when I'm in a bow stance, you remember we were saying that this is the bow stance. My torso is tilted. My torso is in line with my back leg. My head is up. I'm pulling my head up. So the front of my face is vertical because my head is up. But actually, from what I was saying, from relaxing, I'm feeling as if my spine is opening up so that there is a pulling open, if you will, of my spine. Likewise, when I'm in an empty stance, even though I'm tilted forward slightly here in order to engage the weight, my head should be up so that the front of my face is vertical. Now, what I find, actually do it this way, no, this one. When I'm releasing my weight, so if I want to release the weight of my front foot, how do I do that? I do that by moving my center of gravity back. The easiest way to move your center of gravity back is actually just to tilt your body up slightly. That'll move your center of gravity back, then you can pick it up and put it down. One of the reasons we do the waist practice is actually you can keep your angle the same, but just move your chest forward and back. That's another way to move your center of gravity back. And so I don't know what I was doing that you were seeing, but it could have been I was just tilting my torso up a bit to release my front foot. It would have been better if what I was doing was actually moving my waist forward back to release the weight. Okay. So one of the things, we are pretty much out of time. So next week, we will actually do the last part of moving for the empty stance. Thank you very much for being with me today, and let us close class. Thank you, everybody. See you next week. Have a great week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Pierre. I like the image